Hello and welcome to the August 2019 webinar for WIN-911. Today we'll be discussing configuration tips and tricks. My name is Brian Ardaugh.
And I'm Jeremiah Coolish.
So let's get started. A quick rundown of today's agenda. First we'll be talking about the upgrade path from version 7 to the interactive because some users are not familiar with the new product. So this webinar will be focusing fully on the interactive and advanced license. From there we'll talk about Notifier tips and tricks including email, SMS, and voice. Our alarm callout tips for setting up your callouts of basic tactics and strategies along with how you bring those alarms into WIN-911, followed by some troubleshooting tips for helping you figure out which alarms are going where. And then we'll wrap things up with some new features, including our contact utility for allowing operators to change their callout directly from the HMI screen, and our new mobile app, which will be released at the end of September. From there, we'll talk about our technical resources. As a reminder, all videos and links are presented at the bottom in the comments section of YouTube. So if you'd like to have those links or if you want to skip ahead in video, there's also shortcuts to other parts of the video available. Okay, for our new product, it comes in 3 licenses: WIN-911 Standard, Interactive, and Advanced. This product is runtime all the time. Unlike version 7, you no longer need to restart to save your configuration. There's also flexible schedules, which are like your Google or Outlook type of calendars. And instead of using only alarm import, we have the alarm filter method, which is allowing you to build a subscription filters. It's a dynamic method of bringing your alarms into WIN-911. The new product is supporting our latest new technologies for notifiers, including voice over IP, which is not available on version 7, and our new mobile app, as I mentioned in the agenda slide. We also have our advanced alarm escalation, which is a flowchart type of configuration, which is now available. So you can basically something you would sketch up on a whiteboard, you can configure inside of WIN-911. So as a reminder, all of our future development will be done on our standard, interactive, and advanced license. We will continue to support version 7, but there's no future development available. And on the right here, there's a quick rundown of all the features available. Most users, they land on at least the interactive or advanced license, because you have all the notifiers available, your email, voice, smartphone, and your SMS, along with a 2-way acknowledgement. So you can send and receive those alarms if you're using one of these SCADA connections. If you're not using one of these SCADA connections, you can use OPC as your preferred method. Let's talk about our upgrade path from version 7 to interactive. If you're on our technical support plan, you can upgrade for free from version 7.17 to the interactive license. That's that middle license. If you're not on technical support, you can contact our sales department at sales@win911.com for more information. Now, as far as migration path from version 7 to interactive, a lot of people are not aware, there is an import method. So we have this import utility, which is part of the standard interactive advanced download available on our website. And that utility is included in that package. There's also a playlist which will walk you through the whole setup and configuration along with the manual. Again, these links are available on the bottom of the video in the comment section. Now I'll hand it off to Jeremiah to talk about notifier tips.
All right, so first up is going to be for email tips here. So SMTP protocol. We're going to do a rundown of the comparison of our new Core 3 right now. That's 3.x.x and up, and that compared to the old V7 software. You have to have a dedicated email account, and then you do not want to use a personal account, and that's just because it's going to go through and clear out that inbox when you use this to test with and to send messages. So make a dedicated account for this. So obviously you're going to need credentials, that password and username for your email account. You want to know who to contact in your IT department if necessary to get ports opened up, any network connectivity, troubleshooting, things like that, as well as firewalls. Alright, so this is just a quick snapshot of what it looks like. If you're using the old V7 stuff, you're very familiar with the screen on the left here, and the new software on the right side. So I'm using Gmail as an example, and the reason that I did this on both is that it's not going to work like this in V7. You can see smtp.gmail.com, but the port in the old V7 software is only going to default to port 25. It does not have the capability of doing TLS and SSL, no certificates, just plain old SMTP with no security. So we do have some other information as far as how to set up a third-party software piece called Stunnel that takes over the port 25 traffic and actually does create a secure tunnel to Gmail. But again, just our product alone in V7 cannot do TLS and SSL. Now, in contrast, here on our new software, you can see that you can check that button to use TLS and SSL. Allow invalid certificates. You put in the port 587 and 465 are the two ports for TLS, SSL. And this actually uses the TLS versions in your S channel registry entry keys in your machine. So there's no issues with the new software contacting any type of secure email server. So some quick tips about email. Sometimes you can put in the correct credentials and you're still not able to get the permission to send an email through that email server like Gmail, Yahoo, whatever the case may be. So one thing you want to always try is from that machine that you're running WIN-911, log in to that email account. Put in your credentials, validate you can log in. A lot of times you'll notice if it's on a new device, for example, Google will come up with a warning and security parameters saying, hey, we notice you're logging in from a new device. We got to verify this is you, and they'll use some type of secondary authentication method, either sending you a text message or sending it to that email that you can log in, a 6-digit code usually. Whatever the case may be, you want to log in from that machine running WIN-911. There's also some options in there. You want to enable those security options for less secure apps. So for example, you log into your Gmail account and you go to the account settings, and under security there's just a little slider that turns on less secure apps. Now that's going to allow WIN-911 to send the emails to that server and then have it relay out to the destination. Your best friends here when you're troubleshooting email is Wireshark and the debug logs. And we'll talk about how to put things into debug later. That's a universal thing we'll go over. And Wireshark, if you're not familiar with it, is a free packet tracer, packet sniffer. Basically looks at everything that's happening on your NIC of the card. That's your network interface card going in and out of the machine. The cool thing about SMTP is until it actually starts the TLS and is encrypted, all of that conversation is in plain text, very easy to read, human readable, and you'll see where the problem is. The first test you want to do if you're getting some type of not able to connect to the SMTP server or unauthorized or just a general failure is use the built-in telnet command that's in Windows. So you can see an example of the command right here. You just do telnet smtp.gmail.com is this example, and then port 587 at the end. And that will either connect you and you'll get a blank screen with a cursor that's blinking, and that's good, or it'll pop up with an error, say unable to connect. Then there's something on the local firewall on the network, something else that's blocking that traffic, and there's where you want to start troubleshooting. So very good, quick, handy tool to test if you can even connect to that server in the first place. All right, moving on to SMS. So we're just going to talk about the requirements and how to get this set up, and give you some commands for the PuTTY session into the SMS modem, and we'll talk about that Digitus USB to serial converter. Okay, so obviously you need an SMS modem if you're going to send SMS messages. Now we sell multi-text modems on our website, and you can see them right there at that link on our win911.com. Click on resources and documentation. You do just need to get an active SIM card with a texting only plan. You don't need data or voice or anything else, just unlimited texts. And that SIM card is going to be activated from Verizon, AT&T, whatever provider you have in your area. You pop it in the SMS modem, and you should be good to go after that. So these modems, we have a couple different versions, and you can review them on the website, but the two main differences that we have in the modems is one is just a serial connection only. The other ones have serial and an Ethernet cable, so they can be out on the network somewhere. If you're using a serial modem, but you don't have a serial port on your machine running WIN-911, you need to get this Digitus USB to serial adapter. Now there's a KB link right here, and you can review this later. Again, all of the KBs that we are going to have are going to be in the comment section of the video. And this KB walks you through everything you need to get the Digitus drivers downloaded, to get this to pop up into your device manager correctly, and have that working with your USB to serial. Network access, obviously, if you're using that Ethernet modem, again, making sure that the machine that you are running WIN-911 on can connect to the IP address of that Ethernet modem. And that's, again, where you're going to need to get your IT team in there. If you're not super strong on the networking side, they'll be able to help you out. Some quick tips here about SMS. So all of the modems that we sell, those multi-tech modems, those are not the only modems that you can use. There are other ones out there. These are just the ones that we've tested that should work. If you want to use a different third-party device, as long as they take all of the AT plus commands that we need them to take, it should be fine. Should be fine. We can't guarantee any of those that are not tested, but we take AT plus commands to work. So there's a KB here to manually test your cellular modem. That is going to be a hugely helpful resource. I took some of that info and put it right here with these commands you see on the screen. So you can PuTTY or hyperterminal, any type of hyperterminal session software you want to use. PuTTY is easy and free. Just go onto Google and click PuTTY, download it. And these are the commands basically you have to test with. They have to be able to take these commands and then give the right output back, which is typically just an OK response that it sends us. The first one there, AT plus CMGF equals 1, that sets it to text mode. We have to have it in that mode. If it does not take that and send an OK, it comes back with an error or anything, there's something wrong with the modem and it's not going to work. The CSCS equals and then that UCS2, that's just setting the character set, the encoding type. We needed to take that as well. And then the next one is for registration, checking that SIM card is registered. There's a lot of times that we've been on troubleshooting tickets and we're trying to make this work and there's not even an activated SIM card in there yet. Always need to have an activated SIM card with that text account on it. The reason there's 3 different registers here, CREG, CGREG, and CEREG, is because different modems take different registration commands. If you're doing this manually, when you're puttying into that COM port for the modem, you can try one. If it doesn't give you the right OK response, try the next and try the next, see which one yours takes. Our software should automatically check the version of the model number and send the right one. Now this last one, it's becoming more and more common in my tickets that I've seen and across the team that these multi-tech modems, for whatever reason, are not being shipped with this command set internally. What the CPMS equals MEME does is it allows the storage of text messages internally in that modem. And that has to be set for it to take the message, store it, process it, and send it back to WIN-911 to acknowledge the alarm. So if you're able to get SMS messages out to your phone and you try to respond with that 3-digit alarm code and you're never getting it back into WIN-911, chances are you need to run this command. And you'll see as soon as you run this command, CPMS equals ME, ME, it should come back with something along the lines of 0,99 and 0,99. That's letting you know it can store up to 99 messages on each channel, and that should fix the issue. You can actually send a full working text message to your phone if you do this command here, AT plus CMGS. You're going to put that in, equals, quotes, and your phone number, and hit enter. And then you're going to type the message, just the word test is fine, and then hit Control-Z. And that should send the message. If you have a problem there, and an error there, and you don't get the text message, obviously WIN-911 is not able to send the message through it either. And so you need to get things checked out on the modem side. Make sure that the SIM card is activated, you have a texting account, all these other commands in here, and there's plenty more in that KB you can test with. Alright, so just some troubleshooting tips on the SMS end. Always helpful to power cycle the modem. They can get hung up. Restarting our SMS runtime service can reinitialize and send that initialization string to the modem, and getting the timing right on that can help out a lot. You can PuTTY in there and do the commands we just talked about. Make sure it can take all of those. And then you want to put it in debug mode for our software. Again, we can look at that later in the slides, but when you put it in debug mode, the event viewer logs show pretty much everything you need. It shows every command that's being sent to the modem and the responses back. There's also debug logs in the log manager back in the old V7. Okay, moving on to voice. So you got some options here. Tappy, that's your plain old analog modem. The Grandstream device that we just released recently. Now this is our replacement for Tappy, essentially. That's what we want to move to. You set it up like a VoIP connection, voice over IP, and it takes the analog phone line that you have with your company that you were using with the Tappy modem. You plug it in the back of the Grandstream, and it still makes those analog calls out. And then the other option here is VoIP. And as you can see, WIN-911 is listed there just under the other devices like a VoIP phone or a soft phone, because that's all we are at WIN-911, using a VoIP setup to your guys' VoIP server or a third-party VoIP service like SIP.us, whatever the case may be. We're just a soft phone trying to ask permission to make a call through it. So some tips about Tappy. Again, here's a KB, a very helpful KB for troubleshooting. The first thing you always want to look at is making sure that the device comes up in Device Manager correctly. Here's a screenshot of what it should look like. That's verifying the drivers are installed. You see the name of the device. Instead of it just coming up as a USB device or a serial device, it has to have the name in there. So you want to make sure that the drivers are installed and you see that. And there's another KB right there for the drivers if you don't have those. Another cool thing here is that this diagnostic logging is in the actual device manager. You just right click on the modem, click on properties, and you can see a screenshot of the diagnostics tab. Click on that view log, and this is going to give you everything that the modem hears. So, very common issue is, hey, I'm putting in my ACK code or my authorization code, and it's not working. It keeps asking me over and over. This log is going to show you what the modem sees. So you hit 0 and it might show a 1. You hit 1, 2, 3 and it might show that it heard 1, 1, 3. All of these issues are going to be able to help you say, okay, well, the modem's hearing something different that I'm putting in. You're going to get the quality of the phone line checked first, make sure that that checks out. And usually that's the problem. If the voice quality of the line is good, and you still see these duplicate DTMF tones or incorrect tones, you might have a bad modem, but there's nothing that's wrong with your WIN-911 setup if you're putting in a code like 1, 2, 3 and this log is showing different numbers than that. That's the modem or the phone line. So that's very helpful to diagnose the issues there. Again, debug logs in the event viewer for the new software and in log manager back in V7. Okay, a little bit about Grandstream. So we do have the article on our website for how to configure that. It's pretty straightforward. There's the link to it. A couple things to just verify. Your active phone line is plugged in to the FXO port. That's your analog line. Verify that your phone line, the account you have, does have long distance. I have seen a couple tickets already that they called in. They can't call their cell phone, but they can call an internal number just fine. Obviously, that's nothing to do with the Grandstream device or WIN-911 configuration you guys have. That's your analog phone line account. So verify you have long distance. Network connectivity to the device. Real quick, easy way to check that out is open up a browser on the machine that's running WIN-911. Type in the IP address and the port to log into the GUI of that Grandstream device. That should tell you that you have network connectivity and there's no problems there. And again, putting everything in debug logs are in the event viewer. That shows very helpful information about all of the SIP traffic and those SIP messages going back and forth. And you'll get real easy information to see if there's a bad password or something. You'll see, authentication failed or unauthorized. It's pretty straightforward once you see the logs. All right, so some other tips here for VoIP. Really, and I can't reiterate this enough, all of those settings in WIN-911, they come from your voice admin or your net admin, whoever's in charge of that VoIP system. They create the username, they create the password, they allow access for WIN-911, again, as just a soft phone, to be able to have permission to connect to their VoIP server and make a call through. There's not much you need to do from the troubleshooting standpoint on WIN-911 because this is all coming from that netadmin, voice admin, whoever's in charge of that. The network connectivity of the VoIP server, again, do a telnet test. Your typical default SIP port is 5060. Your voice admin should know that and know if the VoIP server is set to a non-default port. Again, all those things come from that knowledge. The debug logs are going to help you out here again, show all the SIP messages and all that traffic back and forth in the event viewer. Okay, quick comparison chart to wrap this up here. So you have the UCM 6202, that's the Grandstream device on the left, VoIP in the middle, Tappy on the right. So obviously the new software has the capability of doing all three of these. The old V7 can't use Grandstream, can't use VoIP, it was not available, but you can use a Tappy device. Virtual environments, you can with the Grandstream, of course with the VoIP, and Tappy you cannot because it needs to have that physical device connected to it, USB or a serial port. Connection types, Ethernet for the Grandstream and the VoIP, and the USB or serial for Tappy. Your POTS line, so there's 2 ports for the Grandstream device, which is nice. You can have both bidirectional or one dedicated outbound, one inbound. VoIP, again, that's totally on your guys' end. Whoever sets that up, there's plenty available or there's just one available. It's nothing to do with WIN-911 there. And the Tappy modem only has 1 port. Internet connection, definitely not required for Grandstream and Tappy. And again, on the VoIP side, maybe if you guys use a internet-based SIP server, then you absolutely need internet. That's on your end, though. Maximum calls simultaneously, again, 2 for the Grandstream. It has 2 analog lines. VoIP should cover up to 8, and Tappy has 1. Cadence detection should be available on all of these. The Grandstream device does come pre-configured here. It has a WIN-911. I configure every one of these before we send them out. So that's a huge plus for you to not have to do any of the configuration and wonder if you got it right. VoIP, that's again up to the voice admin, netadmin, whoever's in charge of that. And the Tappy modem doesn't really need any configuration. It's what we call a dumb modem. You plug it in and it should work. Multiple connections from WIN-911. So this is basically saying if I have a regular running active and a hot backup, or maybe you just have 3 installations of WIN-911, whatever the case may be. All those can point to the IP address of the Grandstream and your VoIP server. Tappy, you have to have 1 of those modems for each one of your deployments. And the warranty, you got 2 years on Grandstream. VoIP is irrelevant here, and then Tappy's got a year. One thing to reiterate, if you don't know already, you have to be on WIN-911 version 3.19.9 with the voice service pack that's on our downloads page to use Grandstream. And also Windows 10 version 1903, so that build number only, 1903 only, broke Tappy. That's their own protocol, and the Tappy does not work with build 1903. All other versions so far have not been affected though. And just real quick, always want to make sure your services are running, right? If you have a problem somewhere, something's not working, open up your Windows services and make sure they're all running. That's a pretty quick, easy check. If something's not running, start it up and go from there.
All right, let's talk about your alarm callouts, those tactics and strategies, and how you bring your alarms into WIN-911. So the overall alarm sequence is your alarms that you bring in that you want to notify on. They start off a strategy, which is the policies for starting, stopping, and re-notifying. And those strategies then point to a tactic. That tactic is a call out. As shown here, you have a straight down the list call out. This is a basic tactic. Here we have Alex, Patrick, Jonathan, Brian, straight down the line calling out those people. Previously in version 7 you used groups, but now we're using the tactics and strategies. A quick tip here on the configuration, people are used to bringing your alarms in first, but with this configuration of WIN-911, the recommendation for the sequence is you configure your tactics, your call out of who you'd like to notify. Then you go back, you configure the strategy, and then you configure your alarms. And I'll show you a little bit more why in the next couple slides. Okay, let's talk about tactics. First off, there's different pieces of the tactic you should know about, and this will help your call out process. The first one up is your delay before. So this allows you time to address a chattering alarm or to address the alarm locally. Here we have the delay before set for 3 minutes, so we'll delay 3 minutes before we jump into this call-out list of people. The next piece is retries, and there's a big difference between retries and delay after, which people often confuse. A retry occurs if the connection fails. Say, for example, you call out a user over the phone, they don't pick up. WIN-911 sees it as a failure. If your internet goes down, that mail doesn't get sent out. That's a failure. So if a failure occurs, you can configure how many times you try to retry that notification and what the delay is. So here, if the connection fails, we would retry 1 time and delay 20 seconds before retrying. Now a delay after, this will delay after re-notifying that person. So say for example, we successfully notify Adam, we can delay 3 minutes and then we'll notify Bob, and then so on. We'll delay 3 minutes and notify Adam. Often we see people configure retries rather than delay after, and delay after is really what they're trying to configure. Next up is a tip here for configuring multiple notification types. So say for example, if the connection does fail, if something goes down, we recommend mixing up your notifiers. So here we have email and a SMS notification. So if something happens with your email, you still have that SMS message to get out to that user. So it's kind of a form of redundancy we recommend as a pro tip. Planning your notification sequence. Understanding the difference between the delay before, the retry, and delay after, and planning who to notify and when in case something happens or fails. That is part of the configuration of WIN-911 and a very important part of the sequence. Without knowing what you want to happen if something fails, then you're going to have trouble configuring your tactic. Let's move along and talk about your strategies. So these strategies, these define the starting, stopping, and re-notifying. So first off, a strategy is always going to start off a tactic, which we previously saw. So this strategy will start off the basic maintenance call-out tactic. Now we have here the alarm state change. And alarm state change, that is a combination of alarm being active or inactive, or acknowledged or unacknowledged. If the alarm changes any of those states, say for example, the alarm comes in, it's always going to be active and unacknowledged. If the alarm goes inactive or if somebody acknowledges it, those state changes you can configure to re-notify somebody or to do nothing. Here in this strategy, if one of those state changes occur, we'll re-notify all those users. Finally, the last piece of the strategy is defining when you choose to stop. Here we choose alarms acknowledged, we'll stop the call out. You can also stop it on when the alarm is inactive, so the tank goes back to low, it's fine. Or if the alarm goes terminal. Terminal means the alarm is inactive and the alarm has been acknowledged. Under those conditions, that would be a stopping condition for a call out. A couple tips here, especially for voice, we kind of recommend to not set that re-notify. An example of that is if you acknowledge the alarm, you would get another callback saying the alarm has been acknowledged. And people see that as, hey, I'm getting too many alarm calls and I'm getting too many notifications. Well, this can easily be configured by changing the policy for the re-notifying. However, there is a recommendation for when you would like to use the re-notify and state change, and that's with our mobile app. And I'll be showing you that on our next slide here. So with our mobile app, this is actually a screenshot of our new mobile app coming out at the end of September. We have these little boxes next to the alarm. And you can see there's different states of these alarms we talked about. So the active, unacknowledged, active, acknowledged, so on. If the alarm is active, you'll have an exclamation point. If the alarm has been acknowledged, you'll see a checkbox. So starting off, the alarm comes in, it's active, it's unacknowledged, you'll have this triangle. If somebody acknowledges that active alarm, you go to the checkbox. So the user would see that checkbox appear. However, those checkboxes are only going to appear when you configure your strategy for re-notify and state change. If you do not configure that strategy for re-notify and state change for the mobile app, you'll see a pending arrow appear. And that's something we've received calls about. So it's important to understand when to use the re-notify and state change and when not to. Mobile is a great example. You may or may not want to use it on email or SMS. Voice is kind of up to you. It could cause nuisance alarms. So think about that re-notify and state change and when and how to use it. All right, the last piece, notification sequence, is bringing your alarms into WIN-911. So on the standard interactive advanced product, we have filters and imports depending on which SCADA you have. All SCADAs do support the alarm subscriptions or filters, except for the OPC, which allows only for alarm imports. So depending on your SCADA, there's different properties we're looking at as part of the alarm, and we can build filters for these alarms. So say, for example, Factory Talk, you'll filter on names, class, severities, or groups. And other SCADAs are different on the properties you can filter on. Our recommendation for WIN-911, another pro tip, is to use your alarm filters or subscriptions rather than using alarm import, even though that they are supported. For example, on iFix, you can do either one. We still recommend to use the subscriptions. This is because it's less taxing on the RAM, and it's dynamic if you want to bring in additional alarms. I'll be showing you that on the next slide here. So here's an example of your alarm filters, and this is with InTouch, but the process is very similar across any other SCADA. So for InTouch here, we can filter on tag name, group, and priority, and these items are ANDed together. So we're looking for something that contains this tag, this group, and this priority. Now these individual items, they're ORed together, so we're looking for something that contains level or contains valve, and contains safety, but does not contain pump. So you can click the little drop down to change how you filter here, and use a little asterisk for filtering on the wildcards. So we're looking for anything that contains safety prior to that word safety. So this is how you'll catch your alarms, and it's dynamic because, say for example, you have motor drives, you want to filter on tag name of drive fault 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say later on you had a 6th drive and you're filtering on the word drive here. WIN-911 is dynamic. We would already know that we're filtering on these words. You do not need to go back and build additional filter because that new drive already caught by that filter. Now, once those filters are created, we have to point them somewhere. We need to point them to the strategies, which is a starting, stopping, re-notifying, which points to our callout tactic. So how do you make sure that all your alarms are caught? You have to build your subscription filter. And the filtering process is slightly different depending on which SCADA, but very similar. So here you have your subscription, and then you're going to point it to a strategy. So that previous filter that I created for technicians or engineers, as the alarms come in, it's going to check against each one of these criterias. Does it meet this? No. Does it meet this criteria? No. Let's say it does meet the engineer's criteria. If it meets the engineer's criteria for that filter, we'll then point it to the configuration strategy, which will start the callout tactic. Finally, as you see here at the bottom, we have the all alarm subscription. This all alarms will catch any other alarm which is not caught by the filter. In this example, I already have a strategy named advanced maintenance. So in this scenario, any other alarm that's not caught would point to my advanced maintenance strategy. A pro tip here is to use a do not notify for this catch-all. Point all alarms to do not notify. That way, if all alarms pass through all your filters, it will go to a do not notify strategy. Then you can use LogViewer, which I'll be showing next, to understand what happened with that alarm. If you see the do not notify, it's indication maybe you mistyped something or didn't use case sensitivity in building your filter. And filters are case sensitive. All right, let's talk about LogViewer and some of the troubleshooting tips. So first of all, LogViewer, people are sometimes not aware that it's included with WIN-911. Here's a little icon for it. You can search Windows for the LogViewer folder. So the purpose of LogViewer is to build a visible historian type of logger, which shows all your alarms as they come in. It'll show the different states of the alarms, if they're active or inactive, and it'll show you which strategy those alarms went to. So here's an example of LogViewer. Here's an alarm that came in. It shows you the details of when it went off, the source, and then you can do some filtering if you want to search for key strategies. Now if you double click on the alarm, you'll have more details that show you the strategy, the time, who acknowledged it, if the alarm, if they successfully received the alarm, if it failed, or so on. You can go back in time to search for past events, and you can filter on your alarm or your notification. Here's an example of if you double click, you have more details. So this example, the alarm was dispatched by email, it was success. You can also see those failures. For example, somebody doesn't pick up the call, you'll see a failure over here. So you know if the alarm went through or if they didn't. So if operator says, hey, I didn't get the alarm, you can go back and verify that event and when it happened and if it went through.
Okay, so like we discussed throughout all of these slides in troubleshooting is putting things into debug mode to get the maximum amount of logging about what's going on internally there. So this is just a quick screenshot. There is the KB article again that'll be in the comments section. But basically for any of these modules, right, any notifier type, email, SMS, voice, whatever the case may be, whatever you're troubleshooting, you're going to open up that directory for the executable. And you can see there it's in by default program files x86, WIN-911 software, WIN-911 enterprise, and then into the notifier type, in this case email. You're going to have the notifier.email.runtime, and then it can get a little confusing if you have file extensions being hidden, because one's an executable and one is a config file for the executable. You can kind of see on the background there, the one that's highlighted, it says .exe, but it's actually the config file because we're hiding no extensions here. Anyway, so you want to right click on that, go to open with your favorite text editor, Notepad++, WordPad, whatever you want. And then what you're looking for is that highlighted field on the right, logging flags. So by default, the value is default. What you want to do is set that to debug, and then save that file, close it out, and restart that runtime in the services applet you can see there on the bottom right. And what that does, turns on the logging flag at debug and gives you the maximum amount of logging available. It's going to give you all of the details that are going to help point you in the right direction for what's going on with that notifier type, everything that it does externally, maybe talking to the SMTP server that you're using, and even internally with talking to dispatcher and anything else in WIN-911. So it's going to help you out a lot. And then another one here, SQL Backups. Again, there's a KB there. It'll be in the comments section. I've had a lot of questions about this and the process, so I figured we'd go ahead and show you a very simple process. You open up your SQL Server Management Studio, you log in as the account that WIN-911 runs as, right-click your database, go to Tasks and Backup. Pops up with the window on the right. It shows you the database, it gives you the name, what type of backup is it, it's a full, and it gives you the destination file where it's going to save it. You click OK. That's it. That's all you have to do to back up your SQL databases. You can do this on a regular basis. You can do this to move the databases to a different machine if you're installing it somewhere else. If you have the active and hot backup, right click, backup, save. Now you have a backup to move to the hot backup one. All the configuration is going to be saved over to that other one when you restore it on the other end.
Okay, let's get into those new features which will be released at the end of September with our Core 4. So first off, we have our contact utility. This is a great tool for the operators who like to change out their callout without having to go into WIN-911 to change out that notification. So this allows you to change the basic tactic directly from an HMI screen. So what you have, example here, if you had a button on your HMI you allow people access to, embedded underneath there, you would have a file, an executable from WIN-911 that would pull up a screen that looks like this. So on this screen, this is your basic tactic applet. So you have Tom Jones, you have Wayne Smith, they're operators in your system. They can change directly from this screen their callouts. They can change the delay, they can change the repeats, the retries, as we talked about with the basic tactics, directly from this screen. Now say for example, they want to change out their time of day that they're on schedule, if they're off call. If you click the connections tab over here, this will pull up their schedules. So you can see Tom Jones' email, he's on standard hours. Wayne, he's off hours. So say for example, you're going on or off shift, you're going on vacation, whatever it is, you can select one of the predefined schedules that you've created inside of WIN-911 and allow the operator to change out their schedule without calling up the integrator to add a new schedule into WIN-911. All right, let's talk about that WIN-911 mobile app, again, being released at the end of September of 2019. Here's a breakdown of what the older mobile app, Mobile 911, looks like on the right versus the newer WIN-911 Mobile on the left. Each of these apps is available on the Apple or Google Play Store, and we support the new app in China. So this provides a clean look for acknowledging those alarms. There's a lot of new features available. I'll be showing you on the next slide. So one takeaway here about the newer mobile app is that it's based off of Azure, so there's a one-time sign-in for the user, versus on the old mobile app, you had to punch a hole in the firewall, you had to get user IDs, add IP information to the app. That configuration is done. We'll be getting rid of that, and we'll be using the newer mobile app. So quick highlights of this new mobile app and what it looks like. Once you click on an alarm, you'll have all your alarm details that is very similar to the previous app. However, you can customize your alarm format. Say, for example, I'm an engineer. I like to see a whole bunch of details. You can go to your settings and you can select which pieces of the alarm you like to see without going into WIN-911 and changing XSL formats. The next feature over here is the chat. As an alarm comes in, you can chat amongst yourselves about the alarm. So say, hey, I got this, or bring a wrench. The team logo here, you can check out and see which users have seen the alarm and which users have not. So say, for example, I'm Adam. I'm in the alarm right now. I'm showing up with the eyeball on. Bob, Charles, they have not seen the alarm. Now, if you notice over here, Charles, he has an alarm bell crossed out. This means he's set on Do Not Disturb mode. And Do Not Disturb mode is set for those users, say, for example, you go on vacation, you'll be out for a week. You can set yourself on Do Not Disturb, and this would stop the pop-up notifications from occurring. All the other users, they can see that you're on Do Not Disturb mode, or they can see who's seen the alarm. So there's some ownership there. And one thing to keep in mind with Do Not Disturb mode, you do have to configure a time when you'll be back. This is not set for infinity. Our next WIN-911 webinar will cover the WIN-911 mobile plus the contact utility. This release will happen on September 30th. Webinar will follow shortly afterwards. So look for the webinar invite from win911.com in late September. Now let's talk about those technical resources to help you get started or answer any questions for troubleshooting. So during the video, we talked about a lot of resources and we highlighted a lot of those links. As a reminder, those are available in the bottom down here of the YouTube video. For getting started, there are additional resources we recommend. First off is the installation checklist, which we released earlier in 2019. This is available for any SCADA, and it walks you through all the configuration steps and the need-to-know questions. That's in the resource documentation section of WIN-911. We're also often asked, where can I install WIN-911? We have installation diagrams which provide a visual representation of where you can install WIN-911, and they are very SCADA specific. So the properties change per SCADA. There's a diagram that shows you what's required for WIN-911 and how you can set it up. Another key pro tip people are sometimes not aware of, you can start a technical support case online using our support portal. We highly recommend starting a support case online. It's a little bit faster than calling in. We also have knowledge-based articles, how-to videos available for some key resources for getting started, helping you walk through any questions. Just check those out for a visual walkthrough or for an article that will help you through some steps. Our monthly webinar series, which you're watching right now, we post those. All of our past videos are available on our website, and you can look for upcoming webinars if you'd like to register for the next one. Finally, on the sales side of things, we have our price list and quote builder. That's on our pricing page. You can build a quote so you can see the interactive license plus the tapping modem or whatever it is. It'll cost me this, and then you can submit a quote request directly to WIN-911. So if you're on the sales side of things, it's a great tool for you to understand your pricing. That's all, and thank you for watching.